welcome back to another Bad Iron podcast. It's been a while since I've done this podcast, trying to figure out the best way to just communicate my thoughts on this platform and perhaps give listeners a little more entertainment as we go along, not just sports picks, which are a part of this, and that's why it's named Bad Iron, but going to do a little bit more with the podcast. So I'm kind of shifting things up a little bit today. Hopefully, you're having a great day. Today is Friday, November the 8th, 2024. You may be listening to this today, or you may be listening to this on Saturday or whatever day you're listening to. But anyway, Friday, November the 8th. November the 8th, I was reading is National Ample Time Day. Ample Time Day. That's today. And I'm going to read this, what National Ample Time Day is. It sounded very interesting to me. It's a day that's dedicated to reflecting on your priorities, your daily structure, and your health in an effort to create more than enough time in the day to complete necessary tasks and to live a more fulfilling life. Well, don't we all want that? Don't we all want more time in the day? I could use a little more time in the day. So, experts say that you should celebrate this day by focusing, reflecting, and working on things that will help you have ample time each day. Well, here's some tips to do that today. We're all going to practice this weekend. Some tips from professionals. A few pointers. Figure out your priorities. Does anyone really know what your priorities are? Write down your weekly and daily to-dos. Does anybody even have a pen in their house anymore to write things down? I'm not sure. Most of us would probably put that into our phone, which probably would create less ample time. Watch out for distractions. Come on, Rio. Come on over here. That's a good girl. Okay. Um, Sorry about that. Where was I? Trying to create more ample time. Yeah. Simplify things. Get rid of things you don't need and that take up too much of your time. I don't know what that could be. Just a minute. Hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. Yeah, hold on just a second. I'll send that to Beth real quick. That's hilarious. Sorry, I had to read that TikTok message that came through. Um, um, okay, where was I again? The last tip from health professionals. Take care of yourself. Get enough rest, eat well, and exercise. All those are great. Great ideas. I think we can all live by those and make more ample time. But a few pointers that I wrote down thinking about how I would suggest you get more ample time. Um, One way would be to listen to this podcast more. You can enjoy listening to my voice for 30 or 40 minutes in a row. Who wouldn't want to do that? Just ask my wife. She loves listening to me talk and tell stories that I've told 4 or 5 times already. It's pretty funny. You may listen to some of my college bets at the end of the podcast and have more money. And if you have more money, you can create more time. And you can also get great pointers like these I'm giving you now on how to make your life better, have a more fulfilling life. So that'd be my first tip. Is to listen to this podcast, and you could go back and listen to some of the previous ones. Some of them are pretty funny, some of them are pretty boring. Um, but I think that's one great tip I would give to you. Another one is I would suggest to not exercise. Let's all just not exercise this weekend. This is a no exercise, hashtag no exercise this weekend. I mean, if you choose to exercise, doesn't that mean you're going to have less ample time? I don't know. Numbers match up to me. Um, Here's one that I definitely agree with, and it goes well with this week and what we've all been hearing and seeing online and on TV. And let's stop listening to political stuff anywhere, any shape or form that it is. You talk about a real waste of time, and what are you going to do about it anyway? Does any of our votes really matter? Honestly, that's all my political comments for today. And then my last one is serious, and that is don't believe anything you read online, any of it. Don't believe anything you hear online, including what I have to say. Probably about 60% of what I've already said on this podcast is not true. Um, Probably 40% of what I'm going to say is also not going to be true. So, listen to nothing, believe nothing, not listen, but believe nothing that you read online, see online. AI is taking over everything anyway. I can create just about any kind of persona I want to right now in about 4 minutes and have it out there for you. So, anyway, I wanted to talk in some sports now. So, enough about ample time day. Just don't forget, find ways to create more ample time and you'll live a more fulfilling life. I just wanted to say one thing. The playoffs came out, college football. Amazing. I'm so glad we're doing the college football playoff now. If you look at the projections on what the matchups would be right now in December, you're looking at Tennessee going to Indiana. Who wouldn't want to see that game? I would be dying to root for Indiana in that game. And then the winner of that game gets to play Oregon. I mean, unbelievable. Ohio State and Boise State would match up in a first round matchup, which I think would be amazing to see the little guy get a chance to advance in the playoff to play BYU, who got a bye, which is crazy, unless they lose tonight against Utah. We'll get to that later. Penn State and Notre Dame would play. And Happy Valley, that would be an amazing first round game with the winner getting to face Georgia in the next round. And then Texas and Alabama as a first round knockout game. Give me a break. With the winner of that one going to play Miami. And whoever wins that one, by the way, will beat Miami if that comes to be. But I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. I think the playoffs have made college football better, um, a lot better. People complain that the games are not mean as much. I think they mean a lot more. There are so many teams that have a loss that normally would be out of the playoff run. BYU would have no chance to get in the playoff. Boise State would have no chance to get in the playoff in previous years. This year, they all could be in there. So, anyway, let's get to some picks and plays in the college football landscape. Tonight is the first one I'm going to touch on, and Iowa plays UCLA. This is a Big Ten matchup, which sounds really weird considering it's UCLA. In one of our earlier podcasts, we played some footage from the new UCLA coach, Mr. Foster. And they also have my former Chiefs offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. And they started playing a lot better the last 2 weeks. So I'm not going to actually play the line in this game. I like the over. Everybody, listen, Iowa, the last 3 or 4 years, they were the under kings of college football. They're not the same team this year. They've got a new coaching staff, and they've been scoring points. UCLA also has found something in their offense, and the over-under is only 44. Playing out west and at UCLA, they're not going to have to worry about weather in the Rose Bowl. So give me over 44 tonight. Give me some points. Iowa versus UCLA. Okay, the next one is Oregon, my second favorite team to Kentucky. Playing amazing this year. They're hosting Maryland. 23 points is the spread. 23 is not enough. Oregon needs to continue to build on that resume, make sure they keep that number one seed. So Oregon covers the 23 versus Maryland. I don't think I need to explain much anymore about that one. Maryland going across from coast to coast, literally. More of the SEC now. Let's get into some SEC games. Florida's playing at Texas. And Florida coach Billy Napier just got the vote of confidence that he's going to be the coach next year. Shocking. I predicted, and I think Fonte as well on this podcast, that we did not think Billy Napier would make it. I think Fonte called them a dumpster fire at one point, and it looked that way early, but they have played a lot better in the past several weeks, including stomping my Kentucky Wildcats. They hung in there against Georgia. I think they found a little bit of something. They're playing inspired football. Texas is amazing. But I do think Florida covers 21.5 points at Texas. I think they stay within those 3 touchdowns. So give me Florida plus 21.5 at Texas. Another SEC game that's going to be probably one of the 2 best games of the week is Georgia at Ole Miss. Georgia is a 2-point favorite at Ole Miss. Yeah, Ole Miss has a good home field advantage. I don't believe in Lane Kiffin in big games. So give me Kirby Smart and Georgia -2. Georgia probably, they may have to win this game to get into the SEC championship. It depends on how the rest of it plays out with the other big games. But I still think Kirby Smart Georgia Bulldogs, they went into Texas and gave Texas a whooping. I think they're going to be ready to play against Mississippi. Give me Georgia -2 versus Mississippi, even though it's on the road. Vandy is at home in my hometown of Nashville playing South Carolina. Both of these teams have way overperformed their expectations. Um, but Vandy's getting 7 points. I don't care if there's no home field advantage in Vanderbilt. Doesn't matter. They beat Alabama there. And they're just getting no respect still, despite continually winning. They just went on the road and beat Auburn pretty handily. And they're getting 7 points against South Carolina. Give me Vandy +7. I mean, this is probably coming down to a field goal late. I actually would consider the money line here and taking Vandy to win against South Carolina. Both teams, though, having just amazing years at the expense of my Kentucky Wildcats. The big one tomorrow night is in LSU in Baton Rouge at night, which is a very hard place to play. Always, no matter who's coming to town, but especially when Alabama comes to town. Alabama's going into LSU, and Alabama is a 3.5 point favorite at LSU. You can probably guess what I'm going to say. Give me LSU +3.5. Also taking the money line there. This may knock Alabama out playoff, which would be fine with me. Caleb DeBoer making his first trip to Baton Rouge as a head coach. So I like LSU to win, but at least cover the 3.5 points. I think it's going to be a great, exciting game. The last one is one I'm not even going to make a bet on, but why is Oklahoma a 2 point favorite at Missouri? I know the Missouri quarterback is questionable, but Oklahoma has one of the worst offensive lines. I mean, they lead the nation, I believe, in sack percentage. I don't know what did the odds makers know here. This is just one on my radar to watch because Missouri to me should be about a 5 or 6 point favorite, but yet Oklahoma's a 2 point favorite. So watch that one. That'll be an interesting one to kind of see why that's going there. Usually, when there's something weird like that, it does go that way. So if I did have to bet this game, I would bet Oklahoma, but I'm not making that my pick. Just because of the weirdness of the line. It's very funny there. So let's go on to one of my favorite teams this year. Um, and Scott, holler to you out there. Um, he's one of my relatives and one of my brother-in-law, and he was in Indiana. His son, my nephew, plays for UND, and we're going to go see him tomorrow. That's going to be great. Scott Schulte's his name. Look him up. A great linebacker for UND. But Michigan is at Indiana this week, and Scott turned me onto this team when Cignetti went there. He has done the most amazing. If he doesn't win Coach of the Year, even if they lose the next two games, he should still win Coach of the Year, in my opinion. They had game day last week, honored Mr. Corso, which I thought was awesome. It was about time they really honored him. I think he needs more honoring before he can't come on TV anymore, which is happening sooner than later. Anyway, he was at a game saying, and I was like, why aren't you watching XYZ game? He said, I'm in Indiana. We're watching Indiana football. And yeah, he was right. This was like week 2, and now look at them, undefeated. I don't know what they're ranked. I think they're top 10, but they're definitely considered a playoff team. This is their first really big test, I think, but they get Michigan at home and Michigan in a down year. And Indiana is a 14.5 point favorite at home. Unfortunately, I'm going to take Michigan in the 14.5. Indiana has Ohio State next week. They may be looking ahead a little bit. They may be thinking about that big game. So I'm going to lean Michigan to cover, but Indiana to win. So Michigan plus 14.5 at Indiana. Hurts me to say that because I've won a lot of money on Indiana this year, betting on them to cover the spread, especially against Nebraska. That was the easiest money ever. So let's go to Virginia Tech and Clemson. Virginia Tech is playing at home versus Clemson, getting 7 points. Give me Virginia Tech getting 7 points at home versus Clemson. Virginia Tech is underrated. They play everybody pretty strong, pretty close. They seem to be finding their groove here lately. Clemson took a rough loss last week. So I'm going to take Virginia Tech here +7. I don't know that they win, but I like Virginia Tech +7. And we got 3 more to go. I'm going to take Duke +3.5 at NC State. This is not one of my top plays, but I think Duke is a much better team than NC State. I don't think NC State's going to have a great home field advantage. I think they've kind of tanked the season. Give me Duke getting 3.5 points at NC State. In the Dion game, we got Texas Tech at home versus Colorado. Dion and taking his Colorado team into Texas Tech, into I think it's Lubbock. If I'm not mistaken. Yes, it's not the Patrick Mahomes Texas Tech, but they're getting 5.5 at home. I think Texas Tech is going to give Colorado a little welcome pie and cover that 5.5 and possibly win that game outright. And then the last one is the big game in the AAC. We all know what the AAC is. Save the best for last, but we all are kind of watching Army this year. They are just amazing to watch if you haven't watched them yet. So different than what we've seen from Army in past years. Army is playing at North Texas, and I love if you haven't watched any of North Texas's games or highlights, they are a fun team to watch. They can put up points in a blink of an eye. So I'm going over in this game. It's a big number of 62, but give me over Army North Texas. They both get in it. They at least both get in the 30s. And if they do that, it's going over 62. So that's it for my college plays today. Hopefully, take the ones that you agree with, throw out the ones you don't agree with, throw them all out, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to transition into some NFL. I usually don't do both of these in the same podcast, but I'm going to do that today. But first, I was reading when I got distracted earlier a little bit, trying to get some more ample time. There was a story that came across that just got me thinking about support animals. And then I saw this story about a support alligator trying to come on a plane, and I'm against that. Yeah, I'm against alligators anywhere near me. Um, and what if I'm scared of dogs? And you bring your dog on the plane and you sit next to me. Is that fair? Can I just vote you off the plane? Anyway, I don't really talk about support animals, but that got me to thinking about animals and whether or not, especially dogs. I've got two dogs, two great golden retrievers, like Kirk Herbstreit. Rest in peace, Ben. I will say that. That was sad to see. Um, but I've got two golden retrievers, and I always wonder, like, can they laugh or do they laugh? Because sometimes I swear they laugh when I say something funny, or which is like every 6 months, um, or when they see something funny, even on TV, and they'll laugh. So I did a little quick research just a second ago, and when I paused this podcast, and evidently, according to scientists, animals do laugh. So it says rats like giggle when they're tickled. Um, who knew? Um, I'd love to see that on a subway in New York. Um, Great apes make panting sounds like human laughter when they're playing. Now we've all heard that. I'm not going to imitate it right here, but the I mean that sounds like a laugh to me. Sounds like my great uncle years ago laughing. Um, Dogs also have a specific panting pattern that researchers identify as their version of laughter. So I thought that was amazing. So if dogs can laugh, my question for you is, do you think dogs have emotion? Can they feel? Do they have empathy? Can they feel sadness? Do animals have emotion? And so the way I want you to answer this is I'm going to put it on my Twitter feed, and I'm going to put a poll up, and I want to see what you guys think. Um, so look for the Bad Iron Podcast on Twitter or X. Look for it there. There'll be a poll, and just vote. I want to see what everybody thinks. If you think animals have emotions, not do you think animals can laugh or dogs can laugh, but do animals have emotions? Um, anyway, I think they do. And this same article here that I'm kind of reading, it says like playing recordings of dog laughter to other dogs is a thing. So people will play dogs that laugh, which is more of it says a distinct panting, not like the apes, but more like the with the smile that dogs do. I think it's real. And it says when they play this to other dogs to reduce their stress when they're sheltered, it increases their social behavior and it can help calm anxious dogs. If you're a dog owner, maybe that's something to try. I just think that's amazing. And then my last question would be, what are they laughing at? I don't know. That's just something to ponder. But anyway, go to the Twitter account, Bad Iron Podcast. Please vote. Let me know. Do you think dogs have emotion? I'm going to post it right after this recording. So it'll be up all weekend. So you'll have time to give me your thoughts on whether or not you think dogs have emotion. And if you you have a specific example of proof, put that in there too. It'd be good to see. I think we'd all like to see that. So anyway, let's go on to the NFL. I usually don't give my NFL plays out, but I've been doing pretty good, knock on wood, in the NFL this year. So I'm just going to give you a few of those. I love the NFL. Obviously, you see my team, the Chiefs. Yes, I was a fan before Patrick Mahomes got there, so eat it. And no, they don't get all the calls. If you watched the Ravens and Bengals last night, you know that there was another team last night that got all the calls. I won't even say who that was, but we all know who it was. But anyway, I'm going to start with the Chiefs game. Chiefs almost never cover the spread. I know this. They didn't against Tampa. Last week, they actually had to go to overtime to win that game. Um, and they host the Broncos Sunday, and they're giving 7.5 points. Broncos stay within 7.5, in my opinion. Andy Reid just likes to play close games. He likes to keep it close to the vest. Unless Denver collapses like they did last week against Baltimore, I think the Broncos keep it close, but the Chiefs win another close game in Arrowhead Stadium. This is a game nobody wants to watch. If you're watching this, then you probably need to find a new hobby. I'll only be watching the score, but I'm taking the Panthers plus 6.5 at home versus the Giants. Both teams suck, so give me the points whenever that happens. If it goes to 7, I'm definitely hitting it, but I'm even going to take it at 6.5. I think both teams are terrible, so it might end up 13-10 in this great game between the Panthers and the Giants. I like San Francisco going to Tampa Bay. This is a big one. I usually don't take road favorites. San Francisco's -5 at Tampa Bay. I bet it goes up. Tampa Bay's coming off a short week. They played overtime in Kansas City on Monday, playing off a short week. San Francisco coming off a bye. To me, that's worth at least a touchdown, especially in this game where Tampa Bay has so many injuries and they're already beaten up so much. There may be a little bit of reaction to how they played Kansas City, but San Francisco comes in and beats them pretty easily, I think. So give me San Francisco -5 at Tampa Bay. I want to take the Jags +7 versus Minnesota. This line may move, but the Jags are better than their record indicates. Yeah, they've had a couple of stinkers in there, but they've had a tough schedule. They played the Bills, the Texans on the road, the Packers, the Eagles. I mean, that's four games that most teams would lose most of those games. And so they're getting 7 points. They may not win this game, but I think they keep it close against the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are good. I don't think they're as good as Sam Darnold thinks he is, but he has played well. But I think the Jags keep it close in this game within the 7 points. Also like Arizona +2 versus the Jets. This is not an emotional play because I do not like Aaron Rodgers, but I think there's some overreaction here to Jets beating Houston. The Jets still suck to me, even though they added Devontae Adams. I don't think that's enough. I think Arizona gets this win outright against the Jets and puts the Jets 6 feet under for the season. Speaking of the Texans, who the Jets just beat, they may have been looking ahead to the game this week against Detroit. Detroit comes to Houston this week, and Detroit has looked like the best team in football, even more than the Chiefs, by far, on both sides of the ball. But I do think they're going to run into a tough situation in Houston. Houston's getting 4 points at home against Detroit. Yes, Detroit's great. But again, I think it's overreactions on both sides to Detroit and Green Bay, and Houston losing to the Jets. This is going to be a different story. Houston makes this a close game, maybe wins this outright. Give me Houston getting the 4 points against the Jets. My last play is going to be one that I'm going to share with you that if you research it, you can find out what it is. But I'm telling you right now, it's an interim head coach. And raise your hand to all you people that are watching who knows who has an interim head coach this week for the first week. That's right. Your New Orleans Saints have a new interim head coach. Rizzi's his last name. Can't remember his first name. He's special teams. That's all he's ever done, I think, is special teams, assistant coach, special teams. They're playing at home against Atlanta, who's been playing very well last week. Atlanta's a 4-point favorite going into New Orleans. I'm taking New Orleans +4 and maybe on the money line. Rizzi has not proven he's a great coach. New Orleans has sucked. Why would you do that, Andy? Why would you do that? Well, a few facts. I know these things to be true. I just don't know the numbers here, but I looked up the numbers for this game because it's important. Since 2020, which is just 4.5, 5 years, teams that get rid of their head coach, NFL teams, midseason are 9-2 against the spread in the first game with the interim coach. 9-2 is about as good as it gets. There's a reason for that. And what I looked up is Rizzy has completely changed the culture. And that's, I think, what usually happens. And when you fire a coach midseason, there's a culture issue. You're not just losing, there's a culture issue. And Rizzy has come in and, according to the player interviews, has really changed the culture there. So watch out for them. Their first 2 weeks this year, they looked unbeatable. So there's talent there. They have offensive talent. They're pretty healthy now. Give me the 4 points. Additionally, I saw this number since 2014 in the last 10, 11 years in the NFL. That record of interim head coaches is 15-4 against the spread in their first game. And they cover the spread by more than 4 points. So it's not just barely covering, they cover by more than 4 points. So there you go. There's my picks of the day. Some of my advice. Don't forget, it's National Ample Time Day. Let's all remember that. Share that with your friends. Go tell them, hey, happy National Ample Time Day. Believe me, that's easy to say, especially if you've had a bourbon or two. So just go around. Let's all share National Ample Time Day. Vote on my poll on my Twitter account, which is Bad Iron Podcast. That's not hard to find. Happy Friday. Happy weekend. I hope you have a great one. And I hope you enjoyed this podcast and it was better than the previous ones. That's what I'm trying to do. Just get better and better. Good day, everybody.